Hey, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about the most incredible piece of technology on the planet, your central nervous system. This is the command center, the operating system, the CEO that runs the entire show. And that show is you. So let me ask you this. What is it that's keeping your heart beating right now? Letting you understand my voice and at the same time allowing you to daydream about what you're going to have for dinner. It's all the same system.
Here's the game plan for our tour today. First, we'll define what this command center really is. Then, we'll look at its two big divisions, the brain and the spinal cord. After that, we're going to take a trip through the brain, from the bottom all the way to the top. We'll get a close-up on the cortex, your thinking cap. And finally, we'll wrap up with a simple blueprint of the key stuff you need to remember.
All right, Section 1, the body's command center. Let's lay the groundwork and get a clear picture of what we're dealing with.
You know, when you boil it all down, the definition is surprisingly simple. The central nervous system, or CNS for short, is really just two main parts, the brain and the spinal cord. That's it. But man, the complexity of what those two things do together is just staggering.
So what's its job description? Well, basically everything. It's constantly gathering data, like, hey, this coffee is hot. It processes that info, organizes your reaction, like, not spilling it on yourself, and it's the filing cabinet for all your memories, thoughts, and skills. It both plans the move and makes the move happen.
Okay, so let's zoom in a little on those two main players, the brain and the spinal cord.
The best way to think about it is like a computer. The brain, that's your CPU, the central processor. It's doing all the heavy lifting, the thinking, the planning, the perceiving. And the spinal cord? That's the super-fast fiber optic cable, the information highway that connects the brain to the rest of the body. It sends signals down, gets feedback up, and even handles quick reflexes on its own.
Now this highway is split into different sections. Let's do a quick run-through. Up top in your neck, you've got 8 cervical segments. These guys are in charge of sending signals to your arms, hands, and neck.
Move down a bit, and you hit the 12 thoracic segments. They're wired into your chest and your abs. Basically, they control your whole torso. Next up, the 5 lumbar segments, deep in your lower back. These are the powerhouses that control the massive muscles in your legs.
Then you've got the 5 sacral segments, which handle things around your pelvis and the back of your legs.
And finally, bringing up the rear, there's a single coccygeal segment right at the very bottom. All of these stacked together make up that critical information highway.
Okay, now for the really fun part. We're going on a tour of the brain, and we're going to do it logically, starting at the very base, the most ancient fundamental parts, and working our way up to the top.
First stop, the medulla. This little piece of your brainstem is basically your life support system. It's on autopilot 24/7, taking care of your breathing, your heart rate, all the stuff you absolutely need to stay alive but never have to think about. It's the silent hero.
A little higher up, we find the pons and the cerebellum. The pons helps out with stuff like breathing and some eye movements. But the cerebellum is amazing. It's the reason you can ride a bike without thinking about it or type without looking at the keys. It fine-tunes all your movements into smooth, coordinated actions. It's your personal motor skills coach.
Continuing our climb, we hit the midbrain. Think of this as a critical traffic control center. It's helping route auditory information, control your eye movements, and it plays a big role in motor control. It's a crucial link in the chain.
Now we're getting to some really interesting parts. First, the thalamus. This thing is like the grand central station of your brain. Almost every sensory signal, what you see, hear, and feel, goes through the thalamus before heading up to the cortex. And right underneath it is the hypothalamus. This is your body's internal thermostat. It manages hunger, body temperature, and all those internal systems to keep you in balance. And here we are, we've made it to the top floor, the penthouse of the brain. This is the telencephalon. Up here, you've got the basal ganglia, which help to start and stop movements smoothly, and then there's the star of the show, the cerebral cortex, that big, wrinkly outer layer. It's where all the high-level stuff happens, your personality, complex thoughts, language, everything that makes you, you.
Honestly, the cortex is such a big deal, it deserves its own deep dive. So let's put on our thinking cap and take a closer look.
So this cortex is divided into 4 major territories, or lobes. Up front, you've got the frontal lobe. That's the CEO, in charge of planning and voluntary movement. Then there's the parietal lobe, which is processing all your sensations, like touch and spatial awareness. On the sides, the temporal lobe handles hearing and is crucial for memory. And way in the back, the occipital lobe is your dedicated visual processing center.
So you've got a right half of your brain and a left half, right? How do they coordinate? Well, that's where the corpus callosum comes in. It's this absolutely massive bundle of nerve fibers. Think of it as a super broadband data cable that connects the two hemispheres. It lets them talk to each other constantly, sharing information and working as a single unified team.
Phew, we have covered a ton of ground. So for our last section, let's just boil it all down to a simple blueprint, the absolute must-know highlights from our tour.
Okay, let's do a quick-fire recap. If you remember anything, remember this. Thalamus, it's the great relay station. Hypothalamus, that's your internal thermostat, keeping everything in balance. Cerebellum, it's all about coordination and making your movements smooth and precise. And the basal ganglia, they're like the volume knob for movement, modulating the flow. Got it? Those four are absolutely key.
So we've seen how this central nervous system is the ultimate command center, the puppet master pulling all the strings for your entire body. But that kind of leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If your CNS is controlling everything, what's controlling your CNS?